Now we are live. Welcome, Pauluna.
Welcome.
So beautiful to have you
Thank you so much.
here.
Thank you for allowing me to be here. This is awesome.
No, I'm so loving it. Pauluna, by the way. First of all, let's say hi.
Hi,
Hello,
everyone.
hello, soul family. How are you doing? We are so glad that I can see you are already joining us through YouTube and Instagram and Facebook. And also you have your Instagram live.
Live, exactly.
So yours is Pow by
It's
You Now.
Pow Be You Now.
Oh, say it again.
Pow Be You Now.
Okay, Pow be You Now. So we want to invite you to also follow her. Oh, we can see Mar there. Look at her.
Man,
Yeah,
how are you?
hi, Mar. So we are here tonight, as always, on Tuesdays for our date with your soul. And we have an amazing topic tonight. Let's say a hot topic.
An important topic, I would say. Very important topic.
Yes, very important topic because actually that topic is the one that moves the energy of life.
Life force.
Life
Force.
force. Yes,
Absolutely.
yes. Seen from the systemic point of view. Yes, because there are many ways to see sexuality, but we are going to be talking about the systemic angle of
Mhm.
sexuality. This isn't something that is our perspective, but it's something that has been studied and how the transgenerational has affected the ways we perceive sexuality and how it can affect us in many ways because sexuality is pretty much it.
And how it affects us today in age as
Mhm.
women of 2023 of this time and age. And it's very important because we never think about like how our history or our ancestry or ancestors were affected by it, which we carry that information on and on, generation after generation. And then here we are, modern women, we think, but yet in our thoughts or in our history in or
Our
subconscious,
DNA
we are
unconscious.
still
Mhm.
actually carrying that same information and maybe not being so open about sexuality as we think we are.
Yes, exactly. Sometimes we think that we are free to enjoy
Yeah,
sexuality, but maybe we are not
so much.
so much. Maybe some sort of guilt might be involved, shame,
Absolutely.
some religious beliefs that might be affecting us that we are not aware of them because all of this is in the unconscious, the collective unconscious. Maybe also some of that information is in your own individual unconsciousness, depending on how you grew up and what you were taught about sexuality at home
And what we saw also
and
as
what we saw as
sexuality,
well. Yes.
because that information, more than words, they could have told us sexuality is good. Let's say our moms,
Mhm.
our grandmas would be open to sexuality, but really the information that we captured or we received from our upbringing was based on what was modeled in the home. So maybe our moms were like, no, 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 don't touch me to with our dads, not in front of the children. So automatically we have an information of like touching
It's
is not
bad.
good,
Yeah,
and
exactly.
this is very natural
Hmm.
of our as human beings is
Hmm.
the
The
touching, the
connection.
connection,
Yes,
exactly, even
yes,
with ourselves. We
exactly.
One of the things that I've noticed with sexuality is I think we're taught to like this with ourselves is bad.
Yes.
Oh, no, 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 you don't touch yourself there
Yes,
or
exactly.
down there. And if we were taught from early on what are private parts, which they shouldn't even be called private if you think
No,
about it.
it's
It's just it's a
natural
natural,
parts. Yes.
it's part of our bodies.
Hmm.
If we were taught to recognize it in a way that it's positive, that is good, and it's connected with even God.
Yes.
And we're never taught that. We're actually taught the opposite. is
Mm-hmm.
that through religion, they pretty much just forbid us from feeling pleasure of touching ourselves
Mm-hmm.
or of connection with ourselves.
Yes.
And I think maybe in a little bit we can talk more about how
Mm-hmm.
sexuality helps us in more ways than we think. It's not just about the act of sex, even in business. Helps
Money.
us money,
Mm-hmm.
clients, selling,
Empowerment.
exactly, confidence, how confident
Confidence.
I feel with myself. And sexuality means vitality. So when I feel vital, when I feel open, it attracts not just a partner,
Mm-hmm.
but clients, customers, business, money, opportunities, because I am open through that power, which is that sexuality is power.
And I'm open to the flow of that energy in me because I'm feeling that that gives me something that feels good.
Yes,
Then I also feel like I deserve all of
totally.
those other topics that you just brought to the table.
Yeah,
Mhm.
worthiness. It's
Worthiness.
it's 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 who I am and what I'm worth.
Yes.
And I mean the connection between sexuality and I do this because it's just here in my heart, the
Mhm.
connection with that part of me from our private parts, if you want to call it that. It's a connection. So here in your
Mhm.
PowerPoint, right
Mhm.
here, an explosion.
Yes.
So now I walk with that power that's very innate. It's very natural to us as human beings, really.
Definitely. And also to know that most of us, maybe we haven't explored our sexuality beyond just the genital side of it.
Yes,
So
yes.
if we don't get to elevate this energy, because this energy can actually connect us to the source. So we're gonna talk a little bit about all of these topics. Pauluna brought it all at once, but pretty much those are the topics that we will be talking about tonight. So it sounds interesting,
Very
doesn't it?
interesting. Very interesting.
All right, so let's introduce ourselves. This is Pauluna and I'm Mayadari del Sol. And Pauluna is also a facilitator on family constellations, and as well as I am. And we are coming here tonight to share some of this amazing information for you to maybe see sexuality from a different perspective, and also to see maybe to make you aware of some things that maybe you haven't thought of that could be affecting your sexuality. Yes?
Yeah,
Sounds
I'm
great.
ready.
We are ready to go, girl. All right. By the way, for the ones that are just joining us, all of there is a part of this information that we will be sharing tonight from my book, Alchemy for the Soul. And since Janet is not here tonight because she had an issue with her daughter, we wish Janet and her daughter to be well. She usually says, buy the book and just buy the book.
Buy the book.
Please
Buy
do
the book.
that. Do Janet's role, please.
Well, actually, I'll tell you something. Before we started, I was going over some of the information in the book, and I thought it was very interesting what it talked about sexuality
Mhm.
and any information that you can grab your hands on about this topic. That again, it's life force. It really is your power. You, please go ahead and grab it. So right here, there's some really good information. So just go get the book.
Awesome. And actually, what moves us in life is the sexuality.
Yeah.
Do you know, Pauluna, that it is said and actually studied because the Chinese studied this, that the moment of how the energy of mom and dad were at the moment they conceive you is the way your vital energy is still like today it applies. For example, if maybe the energy was depleted in the father, so maybe you have issues with tiredness,
Mm.
laziness, procrastination, no willingness to do much, no action involved, because there was a depleted energy from the beginning.
That
So
makes sense.
let's begin from like the origin. We need to talk about the
The
origin
origin.
here. So when everything starts is in that moment, the moment of conception. because two energies met to bring the miracle of you.
Hmm. And the information that makes total perfect sense, because what happens is that, I mean, it's like creating a project, right? So you put in information in it, and that's
Mhm.
exactly what's going on with creation of human beings. I mean, there's
Mhm.
imprints that are placed into us already in that moment.
Yes.
So, and that's when that seed explodes or just comes into the woman, it just comes with that information on how it was created.
Yes.
So that makes perfect sense.
Exactly. So just to think about that is like, where was mom when that happened? Emotionally and mentally and
Mm-hmm.
physically. Where was that emotionally and mentally and physically? Because you inherited that information from that moment, as well as the information that they are carrying, each of them.
Yes,
Yes. So all of
absolutely.
this imprinted moment is very important, but also the information that each of these two parts are carrying themselves. And because all of that implosion is how you call it, or
Explosion
it's
or
no, it's
implosion
in, yeah, because it happens inside,
inside.
and then it reproduces, right? It multiplies.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So that information is very important for us to just think about it.
Totally.
And because we are children of sex.
Exactly. And it's interesting how they teach us that sex is bad or don't talk about it. And even today in age,
Mhm.
say, but that's where we come from. That
We
is
come
our
from sex.
origin.
Yes, that's our beginning.
Through the act of sex is
Yes.
how a human being is formed. And when you were saying about how the information is imprinted in us at that moment, think about, like, many times if our parents as couple were not happy, and instead of having a sexual act that's joyful, that you enjoy it,
Conscious,
conscious.
it's connecting, it's effectiveness involved, not only just the sexual part or the pleasure part that the
Yeah,
body feels, but also the emotional part,
yeah.
how we are connected, and the spiritual part, how we connect.
But if they don't have that part of it there, if those emotions or those feelings weren't there, and instead it was a chore,
Mhm.
instead it was like something bad, like, I don't even love this person anymore and I have to do this.
Like women who
Oh,
accept
yes,
sex because that's my husband, but no, because I really feel like I want to
exactly.
connect with this person sexually. And those memories, let's begin by talking about those.
Those.
Yes, since we're talking about transgenerational and
Hmm.
how the sexuality was affected in the past, that could be affecting our present today, even our own sexuality. So let's talk about this one because this is a big one. Um, Religion had a very big impact in the family system with their beliefs. Yes, because um, we got to talk about eros here.
Oh.
Yes.
Yes.
So eros before Christianity was what they call pagan, right? Like
Mm.
eros was uh, in Rome, for example, Rome and Greece, they were cultures where pleasure was allowed. And actually, they were more like androgen energy. Like there were not really has to be a man and a woman.
Mm.
It could be it could be mixed.
Mm-hmm.
Yes,
Mm-hmm.
they actually developed that those dynamics of the orgies when they were having like abundance or
Mm.
the cross, and all of they would celebrate that with sex. Sexuality was part of the rituals to give gratitude for that abundance because of course two energies are creating more abundance, are
Mm-hmm.
creating something that is bringing more life, right? So back then sexuality didn't have all those taboos. Mm. Then Christianity came in place, right? And it imposed,
Mm.
these sort of beliefs. And the patriarchy came in place, where men were telling women what they were supposed to be good women. So women don't enjoy this. Women are meant to be wives and mothers.
Mhm.
And so all of this created this sort of repressions. And these marriages were arranged,
Mhm.
meaning that these women didn't have the option to choose a
Mhm.
man, but they were married because it was a matter of an interest, family interest, convenience. But they didn't even think about these women.
No.
So where were these women when they had to have sex with these men that they didn't even connect, not even chemically or physically or emotionally, all of that.
And I
Can you just
think,
imagine
oh,
that?
not at all. And imagine not just not having a connection, but feeling disgusted. Actually feeling like you just, so what does sex turn into? Something disgusting.
Hmm.
Something that it's like, ugh, you
Yes.
know? And we carry that,
Yes.
which is the worst part of it, I would say,
Yes.
that such a life force energy has been rejected because it became bad. It became so gross that we don't want anything to do with it because it
Rejection,
represents
it created rejection and exclusion of the
exclusion.
masculine,
Yes, yes,
because also the masculine was trained to use women,
yeah,
not to love them.
correct.
So all of women, of course, men is more mental
Hmm.
and women are more emotional. And so the needs of each are totally different. And if the needs are not met, then you feel like you are not worthy,
Right.
right? And so just that, think of just that at the beginning of history, where these our ancestors, our women ancestors, had to go to all of these sort of marriage arrangements. And it wasn't really that long ago.
Hmm. Right.
Probably 4 generations, they still were doing the same.
And
They
even
still do the
I was
same.
gonna say, even in today's day and age, in other cultures, that's still a thing, or okay, or accepted,
Or
and
part of the culture.
a part of the culture.
Yes.
And it's funny how, like, however we grew up with, whatever information we were given, is exactly what we think is okay and it's normal. So for us, maybe on this side of the of Earth, I'd say
In the
it's,
West.
and though, yeah, it's like, oh my God, like what? But it's funny because in some way we still have the same mentality.
Yes. And the
Only the,
acceptance of that.
yes, yes, oh yes,
Unconsciously, sometimes we accept these sort of
unconsciously.
arrangements that that at the end, that they we lose the connection because we don't see that we are trapped in
Hmm.
an unconscious memory that maybe someone lived in your family system.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And again, what's impacting, or it's how it impacts actually today, is women, even for men, because again, if that energy is not aligned today with who we are, it will affect us even in business. And that's something that we don't think about, how that energy actually is part of business.
Yes.
For today, now there's a lot of entrepreneurship, there's a lot of people wanting to just go out on their own, and that energy is important for everyone. It's important that I hope, if there's any message that goes out today, is sexuality or sexual energy is very important in every aspect of life.
Yes. So it is a contract. That's
Yes.
why in business, when we talk about businesses,
Yes.
we are doing a trade,
Yes.
right? And if that trade is like you are taking everything from me, I'm not feeling that I'm giving back, I'm giving back, then I feel like you're using me.
Yes.
So still same energy that is being used in modern times, but with the same sort of principle of submission from the patriarchy.
Yes.
Yes.
Completely.
So let's go deeper with this one,
Mm-hmm.
because if we think about it, when women didn't want these sort of marriage arrangements, they were abused, used, and abused. So if you see today, how many women really value themselves.
Yeah.
So that touches a very deep point here, which is worthiness.
Yes.
Because if a masculine doesn't feel like I'm important, I'm just a piece of something to be negotiate an agreement
Like
between families, for
I'm just
example.
giving, giving. I'm the provider, and
Yes,
not really receiving anything in exchange.
yes, but not only that, but if you were sold, let's say, because
Mm-hmm.
this is pretty much, it's like, this is my daughter here, and this is the agreement, and that's it. So women weren't valued as humans.
Human beings, yes.
They were just a matter of a piece that can be kind of sold, because if we do this sort of alliance,
Mm-hmm.
then it would be convenient for us. But they wouldn't think about how these women were feeling.
Yes. It was irrelevant.
It was
It
irrelevant.
it's just it doesn't matter. The culture was you have no voice.
Yes.
So what you think, feel, want, don't want, it doesn't matter. This
Yes.
is how it's going to be. So can you imagine that repression? I
Can you
mean,
imagine being married at 14,
yeah.
having to be with a man that was maybe way older than you, and that you have to accept this night after night for the rest of your life?
Yes.
So, for example, if this just one story or one example, if there was a case of a woman who had to go through that, this system is carrying that information. And this information is carrying some repression, some
Mm-hmm.
suffering, some pain in the body, in your heart. Repression, I cannot do anything about it. I feel like powerless in front of this. So if today maybe you feel powerless,
Yeah.
think about
It's
it. Why do I feel powerless? Maybe it wasn't mom and dad, but maybe it was before or
mm-hmm.
way before. And your family system is carrying this information.
Yes.
Yes.
Absolutely.
And so all of this, we want you to be aware of this, because we might think that what happened in the past is not affecting our present. But if those memories haven't been reconciled, then those memories are still active with that emotional entrapment. And that entrapment is the one that makes you fail in many ways in your life. As
Yes.
Pauluna is saying, even financially.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Totally. It's totally connected to money,
Yes.
to attracting that energy of money. It's not even money, the material as we know it, but it's the energy of money where there's no struggle, but
Mhm.
more of an attraction naturally, just
Naturally.
very natural.
Like the flow should be naturally, but definitely if it's not flowing in your life, then maybe look at the sexuality in your family system.
Yeah,
Was sexuality a taboo in your home? Like
totally.
it was in my house. Like I don't remember anybody at home talking about sex when I was a child. No one. And of course, they sent me to a nun school. And I had to find out about everything with the books. I was reading the book and I was trying to imagine and figure it out. Because back then, there was no internet. You depended on what they would teach you about sex
Mm-hmm.
or sexuality, or how a baby is born, and all of these things that they didn't say, that you had to picture it just to imagine. And we will be talking about, because here in the book I wrote this story about this girl who she was grown in this culture of Orthodox
Mm-hmm.
culture, and how they don't even know about their own bodies. She didn't know the physical uh, body, her own physical body. She didn't even know she had two holes.
So that's pretty huge.
It is. It was just like, oh, I have this, and then I have that too, and then I have. She had no idea. She had to be trained before getting married
Wow.
to be able to be a good woman and to give
Mm.
children to this man. Yes, so it's very important to see this, because if it is still happening,
Mm-hmm.
meaning that this force of the patriarch that was so strong at the beginning is still somehow is applying. If it is not applying in your life, it is applying in your unconsciousness,
Yeah.
and somehow you accept where you are a man or a woman. We have a lot there that we need to hear when it comes to sexuality.
Completely.
Yes,
Totally.
yes.
And also another way, well, think about this. It's like, um, how was sexuality talked about it in your home when you were a child? Did you hear anything? It's like any other thing that you start being conscious about. What is my blueprint of information
Mhm.
about the subject? Since what did you feel if you talked about this subject more than anything? Because I think that feeling will give a lot more information
Mhm.
as to like what I'm really thinking about it. Did I feel shame? Did I feel no, I
Or
can't talk about
guilt,
that? Or guilt. I think that's a
guilt
pretty big
of
one.
feeling pressure, for
Yes,
example.
which actually translates into pleasure in everything.
Yes.
Because if you thought that feeling pleasure about sexuality growing up, you will probably struggle with having pleasure in life. Maybe just working hard more than anything, but I don't allow myself to have fun because it's pleasure
Yes.
and it's not okay.
Yes.
And again, we think we don't have this information, and somewhere, just if you start being conscious about certain things in your everyday life, you'll acknowledge some of these patterns that
You
we haven't even thought about.
you can see that you're still doing it the
Yes.
same, and you haven't realized it, and you think you're free to choose,
Yes.
but maybe you're not so free to choose. We must work on recapitulating.
Mm-hmm.
For example, what was the story of my parents?
Mm-hmm.
Like
That's a big one.
how did they meet, and how was that sort of encounter when they had their first relationship? Were they in drugs? They were drunk?
Mm.
They really had they chose to be parents, or was I an accident, or how did it
Mm.
happen? Because the way it happened also somehow is affecting you today. Yes.
Completely. Ooh, yeah, that's a big one. Is
Yes.
our parents' history and relationship history. Think about like even maybe women that were raped and women that were became pregnant by raping. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, the information of that child, if they decided to have or go along with the pregnancy, can you imagine
It's
what that is
abuse.
like? Yes,
It's abuse. It's
that's
like for example, that baby or that person when they grow up can be the victim of abuse or can
yes.
become the abuser.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Either way. Or if you, in your own story, had a story or a chapter, let's say, of abuse, sexual abuse, you have this imprinted that maybe you cannot remember, because we have a tendency to do a mental split
Mm-hmm.
as a way of protecting ourselves from that pain. That but the information is there. Like I had a case not long ago in a family constellation session where this woman, she said, I love my husband, I feel well with him, I love him around, but I don't want to have any sort of sexual relationships with him. And she said, and so every time we want to, he creates these plans, she was sabotaging not to go because it will take to pleasure, it will take to
Mm.
connecting with his partner, her partner, and she didn't want that. So she was like, but I really like him and he's very loving and I really would like to connect, but there's a part of me that I don't want to have any sexual relationship with him, intimacy. So we constellated that, and what happened was that she was touched, or she was, yeah, and she was touched by her own father, I believe, but also she was abused when she was like 5 by a cousin.
Mm.
So that moment affected the path for this woman to be able to enjoy sexuality, because she said, and I would cry and I say, it's painful, and they will keep doing it because it was not only one person, there were more people involved.
Wow.
So she thought that it was painful, and that's why she didn't want to get there. And to heal something like that is a process. It needs a process, and you need to have someone like therapy to be able to go back to that moment, because you need to open the wound to be able to heal it. There's no other way. You need to confront that moment in order to transcend it.
Yeah.
And if you were a victim, let's say, of abuse, somehow your family system is carrying the information of abuse.
Yes.
So the entrapment, energetic entrapment in your system should be that of abuse. You should be putting an eye there, because if you didn't have that experience, somehow in your system was experienced. So it means it's information that is in your DNA.
Mm-hmm.
And if it didn't happen to you, it happened to someone in your family system, means that it could be active. The energy is active,
Yes.
dormant, but there, pulsing. And if it didn't happen to you, it can happen to your descendants. So someone must liberate that energy.
Mm-hmm.
And so we are just opening this information here to see sexuality and everything that is involved with it from this perspective, and how it can be affecting you and can be affecting the descendants if we don't get to heal our perspectives
Completely.
and those emotions that cause pain in the past to our ancestors. And even the body, we can liberate the body when we liberate that pain that
Yes.
maybe our ancestors got to experience when they couldn't liberate that pain from the past.
Correct. It's so again, if we start paying attention, because like Maya said, it's actually information that's pending in the system, literally just there.
Mhm.
And if it's not freed or released, for us to just, first of all, acknowledge it, because it's very important to acknowledge. It literally is just waiting to be acknowledged.
Yes.
It's literally just waiting to be seen,
Needs to be recognized.
recognized.
Yes.
And that's what we do through family constellations, is to
Mhm.
like basically bring up that system, the library of
Mhm.
our system, and see, oh, that happened there.
Mhm.
Once something is seen, then it can actually be released and
Yes.
freed
Yes.
to flow, so that that life force in the or the force of life actually flows, because now it's got a path free to move
Yes.
forward.
Yes. Organically.
Exactly, without any
Because
struggle or
somehow it is repressed.
exactly,
And we want
completely
it to flow organically.
organically.
So let's go to the book. What about if we go to the book?
Of course.
Yeah, let's go to the book and see. Did it freeze?
Yes, I think it froze.
Okay, let's see. For the ones following, uy, Paoluna, please
Wow.
don't break it. Please don't break it. My gosh. Okay, so for the ones following the book, we are on page number, I'm gonna tell you just now, if I can find it. Here. So I'm going to begin. We are on page number 297. And as we read, we can kind of expand the information.
Mhm.
And by the way, if you haven't done maybe a family constellation, and maybe sexuality is your issue, you know, and if you feel like this resonates, this information that we are just talking about today, and then you feel like you want to improve in that aspect of your life, then Pauluna does family constellation sessions. Pauluna, what's your information?
You can contact me at 561-704-8936 or at PAOBYOUNOW. That's Pau BU now.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes, so you can contact Pauluna, and Pauluna can help you working out with this, because this is something that we all must work on. This is homework, and really there's no way to skip it.
Absolutely. Yes.
Yes, some things you can skip, but not really, not really.
Oh yeah, I'd say not really.
No, not really, nothing. If you get to be aware of something, just
Yes.
go for it. And it is time to change. Reprogramming that within you will reprogram life.
Yes.
And we really want the life force to be able to flow organically for everybody.
I think that when that happens, it doesn't just help you or me, it helps us
Or,
all.
yes,
And if we're all okay, then think about what the world is.
yes. And also because we're working on creating that balance.
Yes.
And so we are letting go of that of a masculine or feminine or patriarchal or feminism and all of that separate us. We don't want more separation. What we actually are looking for is to forgive what happened in the past, reconcile it within, accept it, embrace it, integrate it, and move on.
Exactly. Couldn't have said it better. In a nutshell, that's exactly
all we need to do.
Exactly. That's all it is.
It's very simple. Well,
it's a little painful. Simply painful, but very rewarding. Extremely rewarding.
Very much. Yes. So let's talk a little bit about this. It says, questions. Let's begin with some questions. Was sexuality taboo in your home? Was it in your home?
Yes.
It was in mine too.
Yes.
So they wouldn't talk at all about sex.
No.
No, not at all. I never saw, for example, acts of affectiveness at home. I used to see grandma and grandpa. They would close the door, their door, but I never saw them like, like hugging
like affectionate
no,
okay.
No, I didn't see that. I could say that grandma was still from that tradition, or was tied to that of that a woman should be with a man no matter what, and no matter if they betray you, no matter if they are the infidelity, no matter if they were trained to be good wives.
Sit tight and just right with it.
Yes, but I would say that she had a lot of anger that she couldn't
That's exactly
release.
what happens. Exactly.
Yes, so those repressions somehow trapped the energy of sexuality. We're not talking about sexuality here, about sex, not only just sex, but the flow of the life force. Another question. Is it difficult for you to enjoy your sexuality? Think about it.
That's I have seen in Constellated that same issue.
Yes.
And you think about it, and it's like, do you really not feel pleasure when you're having the sexual act? And it happens because again, the information in the subconscious kicks in. So this is wrong. There's the guilt. There's the shame, and then you literally just stop yourself from enjoying. Exactly.
Yes. Or maybe you are carrying somehow information from your ancestors that brings you that of men are this or women are that, and that immediately stops the flow of moving into that energy of sexuality.
Yes.
There are a lot of aspects. It's not just one. It could be individual, it could be collective. Also, in the systemic world, the perspective, we can see that maybe if these two people that are, no matter if they are both women or both men or men and women, if they haven't solved those paternal, how you call it?
Patterns or
Not patterns, but complexes.
okay.
Yes, if you haven't fixed your complex, your Oedipus complex, your Electra complex, then you're still looking for your mom, you're still looking
Yes.
for your dad in your wife or in your partner or in your husband, and that creates another sort of the energy is like, oh, this isn't really, we're not partnering here. Yeah, the relationship changes. So energetically, when you haven't solved your own issues with mom and dad, then you cannot really connect with someone in a good level.
Exactly.
Yes.
It's not woman and man and woman. It's
The energy of
little girl
masculine and feminine.
and daddy, or vice versa. It's mommy and little boy.
Yes.
And at
Yes.
some point, even though there's an attraction and it's my wife or my husband, the dynamic subconsciously has that other information, so it turns into, like, maybe sometimes, which I've seen a lot, they're just roommates.
Yes.
Rather than, so that sexual attraction or want or desire is not there anymore. It literally just, like, I look at you like another piece of the room.
Yes, they are roommates.
Yes,
I know,
exactly.
and they actually are not partners anymore. They are really roommates. Because if the sexuality is not happening with the one you consider is your spouse or your partner, then you're not really having a couple relationship yet. So just for you to be aware of that too.
It's something to pay attention to.
Something to pay attention. Yes. There are a lot of aspects. So let's continue. Next question. What about self-pleasure?
That's another big one, I'd say.
Yes, because also it was forbidden to allow eros, self-pleasurement. Is wrong. That's what certain beliefs put in us, right? They kind of inserted this information in us as a conditioning. And why did it happen? We can talk about celibate here. Yes, because let's say church didn't want that energy to be so free because it said they were trying to control the flow of that energy. So they told people, you have two choices, right? One could be get married so you can have that energy, right? And allow that energy just with one person. So that's when fidelity started, let's say. Or you can, if you want to dedicate your life to God, let's say, then eros can be dedicated to put your passion somewhere else, but not with someone else, right? So they give you these two options that were the only way to control sexuality because it was a pleasure. And so the celibate really doesn't allow you to enjoy because eros is wrong, right, for them, right? And when you are in a marriage, also somehow for women it was forbidden. Like women weren't supposed to because they had to be good women, like the lady.
Yes.
And so a good woman wouldn't be a woman.
Or a woman wouldn't be powerful or have a voice or speak up or say, express themselves, even with their husband, even at home. This was completely forbidden. I know that back in the 1800s, 1700s, maybe for women that were very powerful and very expressive ahead of their time, and they were fighting for injustice and they wanted to be leaders, and many women died, hung right? So when you die, you're being hung. This right
Carrying
here,
your voice. Yes. Your
exactly,
expression.
your expression
Yes.
automatically.
Yes.
And so that, like Maya was saying before, that will stay in your DNA.
Yes.
So when I express myself today in 2023, it actually goes back into like death.
Yes. It's a
So it's
survivor.
a survival mode,
Survivor.
because
Yes.
that means death. So let me not say anything. Let
Yes.
me not speak up. And that's what we need to really just break free from. I mean,
Exactly.
it's such an under. I mean, we have to,
This
in
part
order
of the
to,
work.
yes, an extreme big part of the work, so we can actually just explode with that powerness
Yes.
that we are, that we
Exactly.
already are.
Definitely. So let's see what it says. This topic has a lot to say. Still, I don't want to go on to the next step without bringing some insights. The energy of sexuality is the same as the life force. We are children of sexuality. We were born out of sexuality.
Mhm.
Without it, life cannot continue. Many creeds wanted to disconnect us from this energy because it is the closest that can take us to understand our state of consciousness. Oh, this one is a deep one because mostly when we get to see how sex can be driving you up to consciousness, is a way to connecting
Mm-hmm.
to who you are, to the source, to what is. And of course, certain creeds don't want that because they want to continue manipulating you. So that's why sex was a taboo and was kind of forbidden in many cultures and many creeds. Right? It's bad, it's wrong. You should only have it to have children. You should, those ways were repressing eros until today. We can see that that's still happening today. So the conscious pleasure state of a climax is that of the vibration of the cosmos' natural essence. So out of our perspectives of what's painful, because the consciousness doesn't have that of painful or even pleasure, but the complete state, the natural state of the wholeness,
Mm-hmm.
is that of a sort of a pleasure. It feels well
Mm-hmm.
being part of that, being in there. So we can tap directly into consciousness through sexuality. That's why we have many people talking about how to raise your kundalini to reach states of consciousness. And it all begins with the body, with the breathing, with allowing your energy to move up. But we cannot get there if we have all of these issues that are stuck here
Mm-hmm.
in the soul, because it cannot raise up to the spirit if the energy is stuck here with everything that happened in history. All the transgenerational issues and memories that we are carrying don't allow that energy to go up. When before, even Christianity and even before the human, or when the human started to get to connect in that way, um, there were ways, right, to start connecting to the source through sexuality.
Mm-hmm.
But we have forgotten because we had these repressions that left a mark on all of us, humanity.
Not only that, but when you do this of the Kundalini,
Mhm.
it's thought of as a snake. You know
Mhm.
what were we told about the snake?
It's a sin.
It's a sin.
Yes.
It was bad with Adam and Eve. It gave
Mhm.
them the apple, and basically just took them the wrong way. When in
Mhm.
reality, it wasn't. It was that Kundalini energy that it's our connection with the all.
Yes, and the tree of truth
Mm-hmm.
is just how you can really connect to that source. And when we all want to try that because we all want to be able to go back to our source, and we are looking for that truth.
Mm-hmm.
And so we need to disconnect from that programming of the past to be able to get there. So that's part of the work that we must do. So it says sexuality can be a different channel to the divine source, a bridge to consciousness, a door to creativity, and a possibility to absorb our infinite potential. So in reality, when let's say the source itself recreate itself, right, between life, like matter and antimatter.
Mm-hmm.
So there's already a
Mm.
duality there that brought life, what we see or perceive as life. And these somehow multiply as well in feminine and masculine. And that has been the two energies that have been moving life from the origin of life. That then we can see in vases, right? Like I see a woman here and a man
Mm-hmm.
there,
Mm-hmm.
but it's the same energy of the origin that creates more energy, more life.
Yes.
And that's how it has been multiplying, and that's how the process of life continues to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Mm. So, throughout Christianity, sexuality was seen as a sin or taboo. So, this created issues like guilt and shame, especially in women who throughout history have been denied the possibility of even feeling pleasure. In the past, women were condemned to be a mother and wife, but not a woman. There are cultures where female genital mutilation is still practiced today. It still happens.
Mm-hmm.
Others consider that a woman in her natural menstrual cycle is dirty. How many women think, oh, that's nasty. Oh, I'm in
Mm-hmm.
those days. Oh, it bothers me so much. So it's like complaining about your own nature
Mm-hmm.
because you were told that you were dirty when you had that moment, that cycle. And in reality, that cycle is part of nature. We women are cycle uh, um, machines, let's say, because we work with the cycles of the moon, and because that's our way to process many things.
Yes. It's a cleansing.
It's a cleansing, it's an opportunity to be born again because women need to work a lot with their emotional
Yes.
side.
Yes.
So if we didn't have that cycle, of course, it will affect us, or we will go crazy, right? If we didn't have that cycle, but it wasn't like it is dairy. It's your own blood,
Mm-hmm.
and the blood is
Yes.
carrying the DNA, and the DNA brings the information of the origin. Not only those memories that we are carrying, but also the information of our true origin.
Yes. Yes. So start appreciating more our menstrual cycle.
Yes, our blood. Others consider that, okay, some women themselves see it as inconvenient or a burden. Yeah, you can see people complaining about it. All of
Mm-hmm.
this says how women are disconnected from seeing menstruation as a blessing and a possibility to cleanse and rebirth every month. Some other women don't know what it is to feel an orgasm,
Mm-hmm.
and many others in the 20th century struggle with being comfortable with feeling self pleasure.
Pleasure.
Yes. And I've seen a lot of women in constellation with this, that they had children, you wouldn't think they had never felt an orgasm.
Mm-hmm.
And so there is a repression there that hasn't been healed. And mostly that could be connected to a religious belief.
Yes.
Yes,
Yes.
someone told this person that it was horrible, if there was a monster, that's a sin. And so that orgasm somehow is trapped in that repression. That could be yours, or it could be from any of your women ancestors. So all of this come from the Christian conditioning of our ancestors. Women still have this unconscious paradigm that makes them feel shame and guilt when enjoying their sexuality. When the patriarchy took power, the feminine was submitted to it. This is a memory that still affects women who feel judged by the patriarchy
Yes.
system. And yes, we could talk about that one the whole night if we wanted, because
Well, submission, just that word alone represents literally just putting our heads down, bowing to whatever that we were told to do.
yes,
And that frustration inside of us, that anger of like, this is not what I want. I
mhm,
mean, it's contained. And again, it's pending in the system until we actually just release it and are able to see it, recognize it, honor it too for what happened,
mhm,
and then free it.
yes. Actually, I had a case yesterday. This woman that came to constellate this issue because she feels like when my husband talks, everything is done. But when I talk, it's like I'm
Mm,
nobody. And so we brought that topic of then where is her independence, because she was dependent of her husband, because he asked her to be taking care of the children and he will work. But then also that makes her dependent.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
And she
yes.
wanted to be independent and she didn't know how to free herself from it. Where we found out in the family constellation session that her grandma had been very tame
Mm-hmm.
in front of her grandpa, and she accepted that, but she had this anger that was contained. And she was doing it the same. She wouldn't say one word. Like she wouldn't say no to him, to her husband. She was just accepting that, but she was putting everything in the same container as grandma was
Mm-hmm.
putting it. Being quiet, I cannot say it. And I was like, well, some words are very therapeutic. Just say, I'm tired of this.
Mm-hmm.
And she said, no, 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 I'm not allowed to say those words. And it was so funny because like, well, you're allowed here. We are giving you permission to
Yeah.
stay here. And it was so hard for her to be able to express
Mm,
what she was feeling and how mad she was.
mm,
And she wanted to, but she ended up crying because she felt sadness, like that inner child who feels
mm-hmm.
powerless
Yes.
in front of that information of the patriarch.
Yes.
And so it took her a while to say, well, then let's just do it as your grandma. I said, no, 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 but I don't want that. Then you have to take one step
Then.
forward. And it was just a struggle until she finally got to release that
Mm,
anger and to say, I don't want to do it like you, grandma. And I want to do it differently.
mm-hmm.
And I want to empower myself. And I can do it myself. And my voice counts.
Mm-hmm.
And my voice, I want to be expressed. And what I do is important because he wouldn't appreciate what she does. It's like, what is that? That's nothing because she's
Right.
into the spirituality as well. So all of this is, I can say, you can see people, like you wouldn't think all of that
Yes.
is in one person.
Yes.
Today life,
Yes.
all of it was there. The information of her grandmother was there,
Still there.
affecting her. Yes. So let's see. I watched this movie called Orthodox, where a young woman was arranged to get married under this tradition. This girl, before getting married, didn't even know the anatomy of her genitals. She was trained by another woman on what to do in the marriage bed. Her job was to lay down in a structured ritual, wait for her husband to feel pleasure, and give him children. And actually, she had to put this sort of hat on. She had to all of her hair. They how you call that when
They shaved it.
they shaved it all,
Mm-hmm.
and then she had to put this hat on, and then she had to put this sheet on with a hole here, and lay down
Wow.
flat, and all of this. And I was like, really? And that still happens today? It happens today because also the same culture somehow is expecting the new generations to continue doing that.
Yes.
And so if I do it differently, then I'm against my culture and I want to feel like I belong. So I'm going to do it the same. And that's how we keep carrying the same programming. So ask yourself, how much of what happened in the past, social, cultural, and religious beliefs, still have effects on the intimate relationships of the woman with her partner? And another question here, what is sexuality for you? What is sexuality for? Just think of these questions because, yeah, what is it for? It could be to keep continuing life, but it also can be a way to connect to the source. I mean, it's what moves you. Like if we're here talking, that's our sexual energy, our force that is keeping us here moving and giving and doing what we're doing.
Self-expression.
Yes, and being passionate about it. Yes. Are you aware of your sexuality? That's a good question because sometimes we don't think about that. We just experience that as eating and doing other things, which eating should be also a sexual experience.
It can be, and it is, I think.
Everything should be a sexual experience.
Totally.
Everything should give you that climax, that orgasm when you do something. Even doing the dishes should be somehow erotic.
Yes, exactly.
Like,
Yes.
oh, how soft. Oh, look at just enjoying those simple things make you feel how you are connecting to life and to experience it through your senses, not to get lost in your body or in your senses, but how this information somehow can take you closer to consciousness.
Yes.
To who we are, right? And another one. What taboos did you grow up with that today prevent you from enjoying your sexuality? So homework is like, okay, let me take a look at home. Did mom and dad talk about sexuality? In which way? Or how was that relationship between them? Did they sleep together? Or they did slept in separate rooms? Did they have this connection, this affection, or did they show it somehow, or they didn't? Was that a taboo in my house, in my home? All of those questions, just ask yourself because they are giving you information that maybe needs to be healed.
And I'm sorry if I may make a parenthesis here with, we were talking about it before the live, illnesses. So that will manifest that blockage, the sexual blockage. So we're talking about urinary tract infections that are very common in women, ovarian cancer. All that has some kind of information.
Yes.
Anything with your genitals will have information of a blockage, sexuality.
Every one of those vaginitis, how do you say that? Cystitis.
Which is a form of UTI, or it's a UTI.
Yes, all of those carry self-punishment, guilt, and shame. Also, I don't want to have anything to do. So, like all those inflammations are a way of sabotaging not to connect sexually. They might be carrying memories that need to be healed in order for you to enjoy. So, and the last question here that has to do with that is, does sexuality create shame or guilt in you?
A very powerful question.
So I think we're gonna leave it here, right? So just for you to start thinking about it, all of these questions and how they can be affecting your life today in different aspects of your life, not only in sexuality itself with your partner, but also, as Pauluna said, with your finances, with your health,
Mm-hmm.
your vitality, what you're doing. Are you passionate about what you're doing in life? Because that sexuality is connected to how passionate you are about what you do. And are you really enjoying it?
Mm-hmm.
Enjoying life itself, not just one thing, but everything.
Everything. Your magnetism, your charisma,
Mm-hmm.
all of that entails that sexual energy.
Yes,
Mm-hmm.
exactly. So, well, I guess we are done for tonight.
Ah, great
And
talk.
yes, and this was our sharing. Again, if you haven't purchased the book, buy the book. Buy the book.
By
You
the
can
book.
find it in Amazon, Alchemy for the Soul. You can find it in Amazon. And also, we want to open this invitation as well to constellate. If you haven't experienced a family constellation session, um, just do give yourself the opportunity to see what is at least,
Mm-hmm.
and you will be able to feel the power
Yes.
of, first of all, identifying these memories that could be affecting your present, and also liberating them, reconciling them, integrating them.
Yes.
All of that is important to be able to transcend them. So
Absolutely.
again, your number, Pauluna?
561-704-8936, or you can check out my Instagram at PAOBYOUNOW. So Pao, be you now.
How be you now?
Be you now.
Exactly.
Which again, it kind of aligns with what we're talking about today. Be you now. Be myself today.
Yes.
Allowing that sexual energy to just come forward and be activated.
Yes. Thank you,
Thank you
Pauluna.
for the invitation.
It was beautiful having you here.
Same.
Thank you so much for sharing this life with me and with people, and to bring your knowledge and your experience as well. It was so beautiful having you here, and we hope to see you again next Tuesday at 8 p.m. as always. And we hope that you get to have some sort of insights
Mm-hmm.
from the information that we left here. That's our intention, really, and to maybe push you a little bit into looking forward to transcend these memories of the past that can help us change the course of history for the benefit of all.
Not only helping us now today, but our descendants, our kids, our children, our grandchildren.
Exactly. And if you believe in reincarnation, maybe when you return, things can
Yes.
be easier and more organic and more natural,
Mm-hmm.
more um, that
It
flow
flows naturally. Mm-hmm.
naturally. Exactly. Okay, guys, we love you. Thank you so much for being here so present. We are sending tons of
Much love.
love and blessings, and we will see you next Tuesday at 8. Mwah.
Bye.
Bye. Okay, let me see. It doesn't want to go. Compartirlo. Vamos a finalizar esta transmisión aquí también.